Hello guys, Middle here, back again with another one of these dungeon videos. This time around it's Halls of Ascension Blast 20. Let's get right into it. So for this first pull we are gonna go a bit big here. We pulled these two guys right in the front, and then we pull this back here, and this one's on the right. And we usually just want to pop wings here and add some damage, because there's not really much group damage going on here. There's some shots and stuff, some frontals, but so long as you dodge the frontals and you just stay behind the tank and behind the mobs, it's usually a very safe pack. So you just add damage on. There's not much, as I said again, there's not much damage going on in the group, so it's a really good pack where you can actually go big in DPS. You can even use Divine Soul for DPS right here, and you're probably gonna have it back for the next pull. So yeah, it's a pretty safe pack to just go ham on. Feel free to drop, use all your cooldowns here. Now this next pack coming right up, it's actually a pretty dangerous one, especially since we are going so big. So we're pulling these two guys right here, and then the smallest to the right. And then the tank is also going to be grabbing the Houndmaster pack right ahead. And as we just use wings, we are actually pretty scuffed on the cooldowns to be using, and we definitely don't want to be using wings if we just happen to do something else before this, because we are, at least in this case, we're going to get prideful right after this one. So in this pack we're just going to have to struggle through it a bit, have to heal it as best as we can. Thank God we have a druid and he can actually get rid of those curses, but if you cannot actually, if your tank cannot get rid of those cursors, you either really have to pay a lot of attention on the interrupts, or you gotta sack whoever gets the curse on them, or just make sure they are top, because they can actually one-shot. Now this pack still has some of these guys that actually do a frontal cone. Just be wary of that and try to stay behind them. It's a really good idea to actually have the weak aura pack for like all the dungeons, so you can see that like right there, right to the right. So yeah, this pack is kinda hard. That's why our tank is right here just guiding a lot. He's running back and forth and trying to get the Sanguine away. But it's mainly for the damage, because of the Gargons that are just doing a lot of damage on him. But yeah, if you can actually get to this pack pretty cleanly, you should have both wings, and chances are you also have Divine Toll up for it, if you use like Divine Toll at the beginning of this pack. And coming right up, we're gonna have the prideful. So yeah, we're gonna go into it pretty safely with all cooldowns, and then Devo on top of that. Well, as you showed right there, I actually gridded quite a bit with Divine Toll, but that's like the best way to actually use it. You just want to get the most value out of it, and the proper way to do that is just wait until like people are actually almost one hit away from dying. That's what you want to use Divine Toll as like a last minute resource, just in case, you know, you should actually be trying to make the best out of your spells during wings, instead of usually popping Divine Toll right away. Now, even if we just use every single cooldown coming into this pack, where there's going to be a lot of AoE damage, this pack is actually not that dangerous. You can actually use just your Divine Protection or your Personal, and if you got ranged, you can actually like tell your ranged players to outrange the damage from the shard. The shard only does damage until like, I think it's 35 yards, something like that, so most ranged players can actually safely just outrange it without having much trouble. I know some, especially in Sanguine, you know, we are actually going back and forth with the guys, so our Warlock was having a little bit of trouble just staying on the proper range. But it just takes a little bit of practice to get there, but it really makes this pack very safe, and you don't actually need any cooldowns on it. It's gotta be very careful of the Siphon Life debuff that will go off. You actually need to dispel that almost instantly, because it does a lot of damage. This next pack right here is where we are actually going to be popping Lust. We're going to be pulling these casters on the front, which are actually quite dangerous. Those casts actually hurt the tank quite a lot. And then there's also going to be the AoE from the shard, and then the curses going off. So it is quite a rough pack to actually heal through, especially because we are gonna have prideful right afterwards with this route that we're doing here. I think we're also gonna be pulling these little smallies back here, but yeah, we really don't want to be using wings here just because we're actually gonna be having the prideful right after. But it shouldn't really be too scared to be using Divine Toll at all. Same thing as like with the previous shard. All the range can actually just outrange the AoE damage, so we shouldn't really be too scared of this pack so long as the people can actually play it correctly. Now the tank damage is quite high, especially if he's like pulling these guys right on the left, or if they actually get mispulled, you might actually be struggling quite a lot to heal them. They do a lot of damage, so usually I just have to use wings right, not wings, lay on hands right there. But yeah, that's why I actually use last for this pack, because it's actually pretty hectic and it can actually go wrong in so many ways. But overall, it's not really that healing intensive so long as you get the interrupts done, and mainly you get your players to outrange the AoE damage from the shard. As we come into this prideful, you see that we get a lucky proc from Awakening, but either way we're gonna try to grid it out a bit here, and we're gonna actually try to use our cooldowns as late as possible. Usually if we're running Awakening though, it's not the greatest idea because wings on its own cannot be enough to top people off, but it's a good idea to actually make the most of your normal healing rotation while you don't actually need your cooldowns, instead of popping them early and actually overhealing with them for like the first couple seconds. So yeah, right there I actually pop wings pretty late and then use Divine Toll because I actually popped them a bit too late. We come out of that prideful pretty easily. We don't even have to use Devotion Aura. And we actually go into a little bit of a complicated pull. It's mainly complicated for the tank because he's gonna be pulling some Gargons, no, the dogs, and they actually have an issue here with these stairs where they can sometimes be LOSing. So yeah, you gotta be wary with these couple pulls here you're gonna be doing on the stairs, because not only these guys do a lot of cast and a lot of frontals, and they're actually gonna be destroying the tank, especially after the prideful and after all those pulls before, where like the pull with the shard and the smallies do actually does a lot of damage here. So yeah, gotta be wary with this couple pulls here on the stairs. They're can be pretty actually rough for the tank, and both for the tank and for the healer. I've actually gotten one shot by these Gargons before because they actually evaded because they like got pulled into a ledge, and yeah, you gotta be aware of that because they can just reset aggro all of a sudden. But other than that, so long as your tank is able to leave this pool, basically, you're gonna be safe here, not really having any cooldowns, because yeah, most of the damage is gonna be on the tank. So long as you avoid those frontals, the Gargons can of course be guided around, and yep, most of the damage here is almost avoidable, but you are kind of relying on having a proper tank that's gonna be, you know, knows how to deal with this kind of packs, just running around, not taking damage. Now, as we come down here, we're gonna be pulling this little couple guys just to actually proc the prideful. So this is a pull we're actually not gonna be wanting to pull to rather use any cooldowns. It can be a bit tricky to tank these guys right here because there's a lot of mobs around. But the pack is actually pretty small. There's a couple Gargons, so long as you actually interrupt the loyal hounds from the Hound Master, or rather loyal beasts, your tank shouldn't really struggle too much here. You can always kite them backwards. There's a little gap right there in between the stairs and like the wall. But again, you don't want to use anything here because right afterwards we're going to be having a prideful, and again we just want to have wings and Divine Toll. Ideally for every pack that we can, rather every prideful that we can. So long as the pack before the prideful is not too dangerous, we always want to try and grid it out and try to have those cooldowns back after the prideful, right? So that's what we're trying to do right here. We have some issues here with the Sanguine guy, but yeah, we're just saving stuff and getting ready for the prideful right here. So after a little bit of a messy pull right here before this prideful, we got into this big boy with all our cooldowns up pretty comfortably. And once again, we just want to be trying and grit it out a little bit, not using our wings right away, right? So we're gonna be looking at, like, as soon as people are actually gonna be in need of big healing and we see that we're not gonna be over healing that much with like our big cooldowns, that's when we actually wanna be wanting to pop our cooldown here. And then again, just gritting it out a bit with our divine toll, just looking to get the most value out of it, so that we don't actually like waste it, and then again we actually make our players or like our group members think that we're gonna be dying, so they actually use their personals and stuff. Sometimes it's a good idea to keep them a bit scared on their knees. But yeah, now we get into one of these shard packs. We have the prideful buff. We are pretty comfortably gonna be healing this without really needing to use too much. We still have Devo because we managed to not have to use it in the prideful, but again we can just get our guys to outrange the AoE damage. We still have to look out for that Siphon Life debuff, which does a lot of damage, so very important to get that right away as soon as possible. But overall, this is a pretty safe pack, just like any other one of the shards, so long as you're not running a full melee comp and you can actually avoid a lot of this damage with just outranging the AoE. In case you were not actually running like that many range as we are in this group, you could always you know, make your DPS run out, or you know, if things are a bit rough or you don't have cooldowns or whatever, you can actually ask people to either use your immunities or literally just run out and come back. It's not ideal for timing, of course, but it's always better than dying, right? And as we come into this pack right here before the boss, we don't really usually have any cooldowns up, and even if we did, we don't really want to use them because we actually want to save every single cooldown. I mean, you could use Divine Toll here if you needed to, but we definitely want to be having wings up just for damage on the boss. So this pack is not really one that's very scary, since, well, there are some Gargons in it, right? So you can always get your tank to just guide them around. That's usually the best way to deal with these guys. Just keep in mind that there's one of these guys that do a frontal, and then there's also the frontal from the Handmaster, so it's really not that scary of a pack. You just need to be wary for those casts and those frontals and stuff. And as we get into this first boss, we should be having wings, we should be having basically any cooldown that we need, really. We don't actually have to heal almost anything on this boss. It's pretty much just DPS sec, really, for saving as much time as possible. Now we don't have a Banther here, but I'm pretty sure we could actually get one of the gargoyles into this guy from right after like this pack right before the guy. In any way, right, we just wanna try and actually drop the things that fall from the sky on the range DPS. We wanna drop those on the sides, on the wall back there, so we can actually have a clean path to dodge these beams. Although right here we actually screwed up and we got them almost on top of everybody right there. But either way, this is a boss that you just gotta pretty much do as much DPS as possible. You actually don't want to use any potions here because, well, that is if you are using this route, because we are actually gonna be imp spotting right after. Well, not right after, but like very soon after killing this boss. So just save that and try to make the best of your wings. If you get actually a second wings on this boss, you should probably save them because, well, you'll see there's a prideful right after a little pack after the boss, so we're gonna skip right ahead there. And as soon as we come out of that first boss, we want to try and pull these guys right here. Now we gotta be careful of the patrol though, because if it's roaming around, these guys run through it, they're gonna be ninja pulling, so we want to ideally either distract the pack or throw a freeze trap on the main guy in the front so that they don't actually keep on moving. And for this little pack right here though, we just are not gonna be using anything. It's not dangerous whatsoever, especially since it's just a couple of ground keepers. So your tank should be really safe here, and right afterwards we're gonna be getting another prideful, which again we're gonna be going into with almost every cooldown right here, so long as you didn't use like second wings if the boss went for a bit too long. Now, since this is fortified, I'm not sure what it will be for tyrannical, but you might actually want to either... There's a big chance that you actually get second wings during the boss, so you definitely want to keep it safe, like not use them, just to save them for this rifle. So once again, we're gonna be doing the same thing here, trying to be a bit greedy, not use wings right away. And just as people start taking a bit damage, and like the rifle is like down to 50%, we want to be using those wings and actually do big healing with them, wanting to get the most value out of them. Just the same, holding on to Divine Toll for as long as possible. Could even use like Debo at some point here, but we're pretty safe, so Divine Toll is basically just all we need here. And just as we kill this guy, we're gonna be taking this gateway and imbi spotting right to the boss. Now, unlike the first boss, this second boss has actually some damage to it. We really just want to make sure that we actually have Divine Toll for whenever we are actually killing the ants. So it's either having Divine Toll or using Devo right here. So as we kill these ants, there's gonna be a lot of AoE damage going on, as you see right there. So we want to use Devo and try to avoid as much as possible that. Although, since we have a Guardian Druid, he can actually always dispel the guy who gets the curse on him. So he's able to get away from the AoE damage quite easily, especially since we have, you know, two hunters that can always just disengage off it. But we really just want to have either Debo or Divine Toll, which is usually enough to heal all the damage that like the little ants do when they die. Other than that, this is a pretty safe boss, so long as you dodge those blood pools and you either, you know, use a personal or simply immune this big, like the big AoE here, or rather focus damage, you know. Just use a little something, but usually shouldn't be enough at all to like one-shot you, no matter what, if you are full health, that is. And yeah, right here we're gonna be killing those ads again, and you're gonna be seeing how, you know, Divine Toll just pretty much serves as a revival right here. There you go. Everybody stopped, really easy. Pretty safe boss to play as long as you actually make a good management of those two cooldowns. Now this build we're getting into after this second boss is actually kinda scary. There is a lot of Gargons and there is two Hound Masters that do this frontal cone rapid fire thingy. You of course want to stay away from the frontal cone and try to snipe the Loyal Beasts. Now if Loyal Beast actually goes through, your tank can always kite. You should never actually, like, if your tank stays and takes those hits, it's not gonna be able to be healed. No, there's no chance. And even if the Loyal Beast didn't go through, you know, we actually get two Loyal Beasts over here, so this Gargon is almost as big as the door. You usually always want your tank to kite these Gargons. The tank has got to be wary of going too far away though, because if he actually does go very far away, the Gargons will just change target. They actually have a pretty short like range on their aggro for whatever reason. Sometimes they turn around and actually smash him in the head. And right here our tank is pulling ahead right away as he is like still kiting those Gargons, and he's just gonna be pulling this next pack, and gonna be pulling it out here, so it's actually way safer. This pack is actually pretty chill. There's a couple casts to actually interrupt, there's a couple frontals, but overall should not be an issue for your tank. So you should actually save wings here if you actually get them back for the boss, definitely, because the next boss is gonna be a very easy one and we're just gonna actually race it down in DPS much more like the first one. Now, coming into this third boss, of course, if you had a bent here, you could always just pick one of the gargoyles, or even both of the gargoyles down there. But if that's not the case, just be mindful and try to go straight away through the center, not pulling anything. But anyhow, this third boss is really not scary whatsoever. Even in Tyrannical, it does very little damage so long as the casts are properly interrupted. Just gotta be looking out for whenever like the ghost comes to be in a place where the lantern is. And even if the ghost just walks right through the melee, the ticking damage is gonna be definitely very easy to heal with Divine Toll. So usually we just wanna go ham here and do as much damage as possible. And to be honest, it's been the biggest issue I have on this boss is actually not running out of mana by simply DPSing, because it's so goddamn long and boring that there's not much more to it. Now, if you have an issue with this boss or anything, I mean, you could always save wings, I guess. But to be honest, so long as you play it properly, there shouldn't really be a case where you actually struggle with this boss. Now, coming out of this third boss fight, I realized I could have actually used another set of wings at the end of this boss because it just went on for so long. But anyhow, as you come out of it, you should definitely be trying to get some mana, not really go into the next room without being at least like 75% or like 80% mana, because you're not gonna be able to get a drink until the next prideful if you're actually following this route. Because you just get it right after, and these boys don't really let you drink or sit down. You could of course just be running potions and going right into it and doing some damage and just drinking a potion like in between packs or whatever, but chances are you're probably gonna get fixated by something, so very recommendable to stay behind and just take a little drink before getting into combat in this next room. And again, after we clear this room and we kill the big guy here that heals, we're gonna be getting a prideful, so we don't want to use any cooldowns here. We definitely want to be saving wings. Divine Toll is fine to be used so long as you do it like early on or like on the boss, but it's not really a room where there should be trouble, especially because most of the damage just comes from either the small melees from like the small mobs or standing in the pools. Standing in the pools is almost a one-shot, so if that happens, you know who to blame. But other than that, we just want to save all the cooldowns, so go right into the prideful with everything just as we've done throughout the rest of the dungeon. Yeah, right there I sit in the I got nervous and I actually sit in the pool. And just as we've done with every single prideful before this one, wanna be gritting a bit, not using wings right away, just waiting until everybody actually needs the healing from the wings. Make the best of our normal rotation in the meantime, just use some Word of Glories, just keep on the adjustment on cooldown, of course, hold the second cooldown, And once people actually need the healing, or like you get stuck and not being able to generate holy power, you want to be using those wings and still keep on saving that divine toll until it's actually really necessary. This prideful usually goes on for a bit longer because we got the boss right away after, and DPS are saving cooldowns to just blow it up. So it's safe to use Devo Aura as soon as possible, like as soon as you actually see that there's gonna be big benefit from using it here. And yeah, it's a pretty safe prideful to be asking for health pots and actually like immunities and stuff, so long as the people immuning are not gonna be soaking the beams on this boss. So this boss has very little healing to be done to it, so long as you're actually soaking the beams, and by that I mean, you'll see it right away. Whenever the boss gets to, I think it's 60% right, he'll go to the middle, he'll get all the pillars going to him, and right after that he'll knock them all back to wherever they were. And then, yeah, right there he goes towards shadows, right? He pulls them all in, and then there's gonna be some beams going from the boss towards the pillars, right? So you can actually have 2 people soak all those 4 beams by just standing in between the beams and like almost inside the boss. So you see right here I just use bubble, and I'm actually soaking 2 of the beams, so I'm not taking any damage. But just as the bubble is running out, I'm gonna be starting to take some ticks, so just be aware of that. It's usually not that much damage, especially since it's probably gonna be going in the tank and then only you, so it's pretty safe to actually soak it like that. You can even actually soak it with only divine protection, but just be aware that you actually probably need to heal yourself quite a bit. Now, so long as you managed to get through those both soaking phases cleanly, and you were, if you were able to do the soaking mechanic with bubble or with divine protection, you definitely should have gotten cleanly through it. And that's pretty much the end of the key. It really is just another boss just adding a lot of damage. Mainly that's basically all of these bosses on this dungeon. Really, they're not scary at all. You just need a lot of damage. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did so, drop a comment and feel free to like and subscribe also. And yep, see you on the next video.